Hey you guys, who are you if you cannot judge yourself and improve?
Will you take part in my life, my love?
So if you guys haven't watched my last video, I did upload an older video that I did a sew-in of. Okay, the reason why I didn't upload the video back when I first filmed it is because there were a little bit of discrepancies. I wanted to go ahead and correct myself and let you guys know what to do and what not to do when you're doing your sewing. These tips will help you get a flawless, hold up, sit down. Sit down. I'm gonna get it together and come back. Sorry y'all, life ain't perfect. You know, life is really just not perfect. But bulky braids, right? So I said no bulky braids. One thing I noticed is once I got a braid pattern down that I loved and that was kind of universal for all styles, I realized like my sew-ins were looking better and less bulkier. And in my other video, I spoke about the hump. So I had installed a wig and there was a hump or whatever. So one way to make sure that there are no humps or there are no lumps or etc., stuff like that, make sure you're braiding your hair down and make sure that it is not bulky or one braid isn't bigger than the other, because that really does impact your style, whether it is a sew-in, whether it is a wig install, or what else, or a quick weave. Because sometimes when we have quick weaves too, I know a lot of people like to mold their hair to the back right there. Sometimes there are bulks back there, whether you see them or not. Okay, the second thing is try to not cut your widths. So a lot of people cut their widths and they say that that is the way they want to do it. Cool, whatever. But if you are a beginner, do not cut your widths. And I have two reasons why, two main reasons. Number one, once you take your sewing out, like let's say God forbid you put it in and you just hate the style and you want it out now. You do not want to have to throw away your weave because you cut the widths over and over and over again, right? So the less you cut, the better it is to install it the second time. The second reason why you shouldn't cut your widths is because it allows shedding. That is what makes it shed a lot, because where you're cutting the widths, you're really cutting where the hair has been bounded together. So once you cut your widths, you get a lot of shedding on both ends that you have cut. So just don't cut your widths, or cut them as least as possible. One great rule is go ahead and install your tracks, you know, up to a certain point. Nowadays we do frontals and we do closures, but if you're doing like a closure or you're doing the traditional sew-in, wait till you get to like right here and then you can cut your width from here to here. So, you know, once you're doing your hair, you'll understand. So that's where you would start to cut. And I actually will insert a clip from my last video. If you guys haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it, and then you can note where I messed up and where I didn't mess up. So yeah, so that was the second one. Do not cut your widths often. Okay, number 3 for the don't. When you're putting on a closure, usually they have tabs. Like they have, not tabs, I call them tabs, but it's the part of the closure that is a little thicker than the rest and it's on the sides. It basically holds the closure in together. When you cut those off, nothing really happens to the hair as far as, you know, extra shedding or the closure just self-destructs. Like, no, the closure will be okay, but it also allows it to look effortless, right? Seamless was the word I was looking for. That was not the word I was looking for. Seamless. So when you're cutting the closure, it starts to look seamless. So you won't be able to see where it began or where it finished. So if your sewing was a little older and your edges started to, you know, come out a little bit, and you had the closure and, you know, you did your baby hairs on your closure, you can also do your own baby hairs and it should look seamless, right? It should flow together. But if you have those tabs, which I know from my history from way back when I used to do sewings with closures, the tabs would show, or it would kind of be a little different. I used to actually sew the keep calling it a tab, and I'll insert a picture and try to circle it for you. but I used to sew it back, and that also is how I like kept the closure stretched out and down, because I didn't use glue back then in those days. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the do's of what you want to do to your sewing. But before I start with that, this necklace and these earrings was a set from Shein, and I do have a reference code. You just go in, you edit your profile, and you put under my reference USC 369. Okay, you guys, and every time you order, you'll get extra off on your order. Just wanted to put that out there. One thing that I did notice about it is when you do it in the app, sometimes it doesn't work. So you'll have to go to the website and then type in your password and your email address, and then go into your profile and then click edit and then put your reference code in. And that's for every order. So once you put it in one time, you never have to deal with it again, and you get your money off every time. Okay, so now time for, okay. So if I say okay again, somebody please hit the buzzer. Okay. So do. One thing in my last video that I did not do, maybe I was tired at the time. I think I did record that video late at night. I had came off work and then I was going on vacation soon after, was pluck my closure to make it look a little bit more realistic. A lot of times closures aren't as hard, or you don't have to pluck as much as a frontal, but you can and make it look realistic. At least pluck the part. So please do not make the mistake I made. Pluck the part. I'm sorry if you guys hear the rain in the background. See, first it was the dog, now it is the rain. Like, oh my God. And I haven't been posting YouTube videos lately, and I'm just slacking, and then the world is just beating me up when I finally try to make a video. Please support me and subscribe. Okay, back to what I was saying. Pluck the part, because that is a dead giveaway that this is a wig or whatever. So in my Brazilian curly video, the closure was actually very thick and very full. So I could have thinned it out a little bit more and then wore it, and it would have been better. And actually later on, I think I did install that hair again. And when I installed it for the second time, it looked way better. And this is why I'm saying, like, definitely do that. Just don't wait. Do it up front. All right. The next do for sew-ins is have multiple needles. If anybody starts to do someone's hair, because I don't let people do my hair, sadly. I haven't done it in years, and I'm just now starting back to get there this year. But when I see other people doing people's hair and they have one needle, it just irks me. Do you know how much time you will save if you pre-thread needles? Also, when you're doing your own hair, you'll kind of tend to know how many needles you'll use. What I did is every time I did a sew-in on myself, I would buy needle and thread. Sometimes I didn't have to use the whole thing of thread, but I kept buying needles. So I didn't just buy 6 needles, even though in essence 6 needles is $6. I just would buy one each time I did a sew-in until I got up to like 7 needles. You know, sometimes you lose them. Hey, it's life. But when I realized this, 7 needles, I would probably sometimes, depending on how I'm sewing it or the style, or whether it has a closure or a frontal or it's traditional, you only need 7 needles, right? And it's quick. You just skip that step where you would have to stop and put the thread in the needle hole. Yeah, no, you just skip that. You grab your next bundle and you keep threading, period, and you keep moving. It saves so much time. Just do it up front. I've went to shops and I've seen ladies with like boards like this, and they're just full of needles and they're already threaded up. So the next thing is sew your closure on first. I have seen people do it multiple ways, and I kind of have learned why they would sew on the bundles first. But if you are a beginner, sew your closure or your frontal on first. That will allow you to know where you're going to put the wefts and where and how many bundles you would need, where to position them on your ear, because sometimes we tend to sew a little different, especially as beginners. We'll do ear to ear, or we'll do from from one side of your neck to the other side of your neck. So the problem with that is if you're doing ear to ear, sometimes your frontals actually go that far back. Most of the times they kind of curve up a little bit, but the frontals will go that far back. So to basically cancel the chance of you having to take out a whiff in order to sew down your frontal, go ahead and sew the frontal down first. Sew your closure down first as well. I know the closure does not take up as much space, but it is still important that you get all of that down first. Now, there is one reason why you wouldn't sew it down first, and this is why. If you're a hairstylist and you're doing someone else's hair, most of the time, if they came to you and the frontal or the closure isn't customized, you would go ahead and customize that first while you're doing their hair or while you're doing their appointment. And so really, that's really the only exception. So you'll go ahead and you'll prep the frontal, prep the closure, then do the braids. And if the frontal or the closure still isn't done by the time you're doing the braid down, you would go ahead and sew in maybe one bundle. But you rarely ever see people sewing in all their bundles and then trying to fit a closure or a frontal into that space. So I just want you guys to know that, especially if you are a beginner, just go ahead, do it in the right order. I've learned that doing things in the right order matter so much. Make sure you hit up that reference code. Make sure you hit up that red button down there. That red button allows you to subscribe to my channel so you never miss a beat. The bell is also, if you don't check it on YouTube, they'll notify you. So go ahead and click that bell. And guess what? I love comments, even the negative ones. So go ahead and comment down below. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see, what you don't want to see. Like my dog, if you don't want to see him no more, let me know. I kick him out every time. No, I'm just kidding. I can't do that. That's my dog. He lives with me. Like, he loves me when no one else loves me. Like, when y'all don't be watching my videos, he sits there with me while I make my videos. And I respect that. That's love. And he doesn't love me just because I feed him. He loves me because I love him. I don't know why he loves me. But anyway, you guys, remember to stay a million and true to you. And you guys have a nice day.